Hi, all. Thank you for being here and for taking this time to watch this beginning of the week session since I had no voice and wasn't able to be with you for the end of week session. As I'd said in the email I'd sent out, I wanted to write a few words about or say a few words about the general epistles, this week's topic, and give you a little bit of background. I also wanted to follow up on a couple of pieces from, in particular, the book of Romans. So, and I also want to say a couple of words about your final assignment. So, this brief introduction to the general epistles. These general epistles, which comprise Hebrews, James, First and Second Peter, First, Second, Third John, and Jude. All right, so we started with Hebrews. We took care of First, Second, and Third John, the John's three letters, when we looked at Johannine literature. And now we've got James, First and Second Peter, and Jude, those four remaining epistles. So they're often called Catholic epistles. Doesn't mean that they're only in Catholic Bibles. It's that Catholic as in universal. I believe in the Catholic Church is in the Apostles' Creed. For those of you who know that, that's little c Catholic, not huge, big C Catholic. These are universal. Why we call them that is that unlike Paul's letters, who are written to specific people, these letters are written for a broad audience, right? So general epistles, not just general, it's because they're written for a broad audience. One of the ways we could sum these up is to say that they talk about faith, so that if you were to look at the letters, try to remember them this way. Oh, let me try it this way. James, faith shows up in real life. And one of the pieces that we talk about in James is how he's saying, hey, faith and works, and we get caught up in the faith and works. Part of what's going on back there, though, is that you have people who know that Jesus is coming back and they're waiting around for him to get there. And James is saying, hey, we don't know the day, the time, right? Just like Jesus said, you got to work, folks. So, looking more deeply into that, faith shows up in real life. You can't just sit around and wait because you believe that Jesus is coming. So faith isn't just something you say, it's something you do. It's how you live your life. Your actions reveal what you actually believe. If your faith is real, it's going to show up in how you live. That's James. First Peter. Faith stands strong in hard times. And following Jesus doesn't mean that your life is easy. Nowhere in the Bible does it say life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Happiness is not a biblical concept, especially when it comes to following Jesus. Faith stands strong in hard times. Hard times are actually a chance to stay faithful, not to give up. It's to step up, not give up. Hard seasons don't break our faith, they build it. Faith, 2 Peter, faith holds tight to truth. There will always be voices trying to twist the truth. Stay grounded is what Peter's telling us in his second letter. Stay grounded in what's true about Jesus. Truth isn't what feels right, it's what God has already said. I'll add to that, it's what God is doing. We talk a bit about, what was that? Do you remember the bracelets and message you'd see a lot of places if you're old enough to remember that? What would Jesus do? WWJD. What would Jesus do? I preferred to say, what is Jesus doing? Right? Not what Jesus taught, it's what is Jesus teaching. It is what he's taught, but it's also what he's teaching. It's ever moving. It's not just what God has already said, it's what God is saying together in the here and the now. Our fourth book is Jude. Faith fights for what is right. Sometimes faith means taking a stand. Don't let truth get watered down or replaced. Faith fights for what's right. You might say, don't compromise. A strong faith doesn't stay silent when truth is under attack. So those are the four epistles that we're working with this week, kind of summed up around faith. Faith shows up in real life, our actions. What is it? We don't just talk the talk. We don't just walk the talk. We walk the walk, right? Faith shows up in real life. First Peter, faith stands strong in hard times when we're living that real life. Second Peter, faith holds tight to truth, and faith fights for what is right. So here's some questions that you could be thinking about this week. Let's see. Is my faith showing up in my daily life? Remember, not yes and no questions. How is my faith showing up in my daily life? How did my faith show up in life today? How do I stand strong when things get hard? How do I stand strong when things get hard? I know a lot of you are going through a lot of tough things right now. You're faced with decisions, you're facing challenges. What's keeping you grounded? What's keeping you grounded? And do you know the truth well enough to hold on to it? What's your truth? What's your truth? All right, so that's my quick introduction to the general epistles. Now, want to share. Yes, I want to pick up on a couple of pieces I said I wanted to share on. This one is on Romans chapter 8, and it's where Paul says that the Spirit sighs for us. When we don't have the words to say, that the Spirit speaks on our behalf. The word that he uses there, and let me say that in different versions of the Bible, it says, cries out, weeps for us was another one that I had seen, cries. This word, though, is stenagmos in Greek, stenagmos. It gets transliterated Stenagmos. I'll spell slower. I'll spell it slower. Stenagmos, stenagmos. It's a word of lamentation. It is a deep groaning. It is a wailing. It comes from deep, deep, deep inside. And so what he's talking, when we have no words, the Spirit will speak on our behalf. Have you ever gone to pray with somebody and you just don't know the words to say? I found myself just when someone will tell me something or something comes across and all I can say is or it's those words I don't have to say. Often when we're in that prayer mode, right, we're the called upon designated prayer, and the words just aren't there, and we're grasping for words. To be quiet is okay. Now, I will tell you that there are people who complain about that. One of the churches I pastored, one of the complaints this man made about me a couple of times was that when I prayed the pastoral prayer, I got very quiet and I paused. I was supposed to be speaking eloquently and all of these other good pieces, and it sent me to writing my prayers all the time. I really was double thinking myself. I was really concerned about that, being judged for how I prayed. And what I learned out of that, what I became aware of, is that when I pray or speak of spiritual things, my voice will drop. I don't know why, but it does. And the other piece is that when I pray, pastoral prayers, you're praying out here. When you're praying in services, you're praying out here. But when I pray here. And so it is this conversational piece, but it's also waiting for what words are coming up, what needs to come up, what is coming up, what do I need to say, if you will. So don't get trapped into what other people want you to say or how other people want you to pray. Allow the Spirit to pray and to think, to speak through you. Stenagmos, that deep, deep feeling. Another word, then I want to, I want to say a word about working Bibles. Excuse me, a working Bible. All of us, I've made mention that all of us have a working Bible. The working Bible are those verses, those messages that we like the most. Jesus is love. God is love. That is a very clear part of many of our working Bibles. I have my own pieces of working Bible, which then often means that we forget major chunks of the rest of the Bible. So it's good to have a clue what our go-tos are. What is it that I tend to not just relate to, but also sometimes rely on to the cost of bringing in more thought and consideration to that working Bible. Third piece, I'm going to share my screen on this one. I've been practicing. The third piece I want to share with you is about the word pistis that I told you I would be sharing on. So I'm going to share this right here. With luck, you are seeing something that has the word pistis on it. Pistis is Greek for faith. It's belief, it's knowledge, it's trust, reliability. But we translate pistis as faith, and faith is something we have. Take it there into that ancient Greek, though, and for what the Bible's or the people the works that are encapsulated there in the New Testament, they have this fuller connotation, this fuller understanding of pistis. It means belief, it means knowledge, it means trust, reliability. If you were to look in the Greek lexicon, you would see these words as definitions for pistis. This is what I realized. When it comes to the walk from being a not yet Christian to being like totally in relationship with God, totally what is reconciled, totally justified. John Wesley, founder of the movement that became Methodism, that totally sanctified place. It starts down here. This is all pistis, okay? All pistis. But it starts for a not yet Christian with a curiosity. A curiosity might look like something taking us from there is no God to, okay, what if there is God? Now, you can pick up anywhere on this line, okay? So it's not linear. It doesn't have to be linear. It tends to be. I kind of think of it that way, but we can go all different ways with this. But there at first there is a curiosity. If we're not coming in up here as a Christian, we weren't always a Christian. So, all right, maybe there is. I'll see. Let's see. Still not yet Christian. All this is in your head. And at some point you get to where you're exploring. And you're exploring, who is God? What about this Jesus? Or, Jesus, maybe you already believe in God, but there's this Jesus thing still in our head. Then you get to the place where that will say you're a Christian. I believe. I do believe. Now, at this moment, I'm talking about believers' baptism, right? For those of us that were baptized as children, we're talking about profession of faith, right? And for believer baptism, it comes with a profession of faith. I believe. I believe that Jesus is the Son of the living God. I believe that, and I want to have him as my Lord and Savior. For those again, those of us that are in in those traditions where we are baptized, when we make our profession of faiths, this is where we find ourselves. At this point, we're still in the head, but I've gone from where I believe in Jesus to I know that there's a Jesus, right? We're kind of growing. I took a few years ago and realized that I would say, I believe, I don't know, I believe that Jesus can do miracles. To, and I switched that to say, I know Jesus can do miracles. Check your own language with that. Do you talk more in, I believe he can do this, or I know that he can do this? I think some of us might say that's kind of haughty, but it's not. Do you merely believe it or do you know it? Doesn't mean you had to see it for it to be real, but you know that that's happening or that it can happen, even if you haven't seen it. You believe it, right? Our faith is growing. Still in our head, though. What happens to those of us that take profession of faith, and particularly those of us that do believer baptism, we tend to leave people in the baptistry, or we take them, we leave them in front with their profession of faith, right? But we leave them in the understanding. That's this trust that begins to seep up through us. This is moving from that head place to our hearts. This is where I'm not just walking the talk. Now the walk is walking. I'm walking side by side. Jesus actually is functioning in me. We are walking together. This is discipling. How do we grow faith? We grow from asking questions for those not yet Christians or those no longer Christians to where we're learning more, but we can't stay in the learning mode. That's where we've been staying, but we've got to get out of that learning mode so that we can get in and we can begin that discipling. If your church is not yet working with discipling, I can suggest some ways to do that one-on-one. We do more on that in spiritual development. So there's an education leader development actually is the better at that. How do we disciple people? How do we really help grow faith? How do we experiencing is what grows that trust. I can't build trust for you. Nobody can. That's something that comes through experience with Jesus, right? All right, so we get to the trust place, to that fully rely on, where we are just our whole life, we just emanate because we're walking with Jesus. He's right there. We know this, even when we're not so sure, even when, oh yeah, we're not so sure that this is where we are in relationship with Jesus, with and God, the whole of our very, very being. Does it make some sense? Okay. So you can sit with that. This is here for you. Another way of looking at that is pistis again, belief, knowledge, trust, faith, and reliability. And we go from curious and exploring. There's your not yet, or I'd add no longer Christians. Christians baptized, still head baptized. Believe, no is right here. Probably believe is where we, not probably, it is. Believe, Christians, baptized even is believe. You move into where you know. And then trusting and relying, that's from this discipling pieces. So we move from our head, being baptized, head, to our heart, to our head, heart, life, right? Body, mind, spirit. It's all in there together. Might be a good piece for you to take a moment, stop this video, and ask, where am I in this, right? It's a rhetorical question. It's for you to sit with if you have time and you want to. There it is. Okay, so I want to move this last piece, and that's to toss out to you about the final assignment. There is a lot in each of the books and letters, no matter how big or how small they may be, to get through everything I'm asking you to do, right? Those outlines. Here's the bottom line reality. You've been doing that for these last, what, 5 weeks now that you've been working with the different texts, right? The books, the letters, the writings and whatnot. So I don't want you to regurgitate what you already know, okay? What you've already demonstrated, what you've shown. What I want you to do is think about that 11-year-old who's going to be reading this. I want you to think about that not yet Christian or that no longer Christian who perhaps didn't know these truths. What are the nuggets? What are the pieces that they need? What is going to help them move, right? Maybe from the curious explorer to the believing, the knowing. What is going to be helpful for them? That's how I want you to write this. I want you to think of your 11-year-old audience who would be reading this. So, wow, how about that? You've got some of you have taken big old books and big old chunks. And I really did. I got to thinking about this. How on earth, this is maybe the 7th time I'm teaching this course. And every time I trip over this and I think, wow, how are you going to get that into those few pages? The way you're going to do that is you've already demonstrated to me that you know these pieces. And if you haven't, well, get on top of it, okay? But you've demonstrated your abilities to search out more. Now I want to see your ability to make and to transfer the important parts to people in a way that makes a difference. Because my friends, where we really need to be is with those not yet Christians, with those no longer Christians, with those who are not yet disciples, and what was it Paul said about spoon feeding, right? They're not ready for the meat. They still need the pablum, okay? That they're not ready for all this stuff. What is the important? What are the stories? What stories connect back to, like Hebrews makes mention of people from the Old Testament. What is important? Why is that important? You've got to be able to put a why it's important there and see where you get. Yeah. All right. If you have questions, of course, email me, call me, and let's set up a time to talk. I always prefer to be able to set up some Zoom so we can actually have conversation, because writing back and forth is just is really a lot and doesn't allow us to have conversation. So if you want to talk more, talk about your paper, have any kind of again questions, confusions, whatnot, drop me an email. Tell me some good times over the next few days that are good for you to talk. They're weekdays. They've got to be after 3:30. All right. I will look forward to seeing what you come up with this week. I'll see you next Saturday. Even if I don't have a voice, I will drag Dr. Bill with me. All right. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.